Hey everybody, this is Joe. Thank you for watching my Giga Texas construction update video.
Well, back out here on another important day for Tesla and Giga Texas. This is the second quarter financial results meeting. We're going to find out a little bit more about how well they did financially, in addition to having all of the great production and deliveries for the quarter that we found out about a few weeks ago. Now, what I am expecting is there's going to be a lot of capital expenditures. Cash flow is going to be something everybody's going to be looking at, but it's not really a surprise because, as you've seen here at Giga Texas, but also at multiple other facilities that Tesla has, there is a lot of construction, a lot of major projects, all of which are geared for the future, looking into 27, 28, and beyond. And for us to have something to look forward to, have those new products, those new capabilities, they have to have the facilities built, and it has that lead time. So that is what I expect to see. We'll find out what else that we hear about, and maybe we'll get some more details about Cybercab, Robotaxi, or maybe some other products or maybe plans that Tesla has. Now, there are a few things that are of interest that just came out the last couple of days. First of all, the AI3 computers with that V14 Lite FSD, it looks like there was another dot release, a lot more changes based on initial feedback. And from what Ashok has said, this looks like it's the version that's going to be rolling out wide. So hopefully, not only in the States, but around the world, a lot of people with Hardware 3 cars are going to get the V14 Lite and have almost all of the features that the regular V14 has. The reviews seem to be positive so far, so I'm hoping that everybody has that experience with it. So it's been a long time in coming, so good luck, and I really do hope that it works out for all the AI 3 cars, the Hardware 3 cars. Now, another thing that we found out about very recently is that to confirm the rumors, Cybercabs do in fact have Starlinks. They are integrated into the rear hatch, and it's sort of underneath using a transparent RF material. That's what that basically the roof and the hatch of the Cybercab are made out of, and this allows for Starlinks to be used while the vehicle is in service. Now, Ashok also came out and talked a little bit about that. He said that it isn't needed for the full self-driving, but it is needed for navigation, entertainment, and also the most important thing, probably fleet service and fleet management. And we've talked about that before. In fact, recently I was on the Two Guys 2 Weeks episode 9 podcast with Cern Basher and Phil Beisel, and that's what I talked about specifically, is fleet management.
The third biggest part is fleet management. And I don't know if people really think about that too much, but it's a huge issue. Is everywhere you go, you're going to have to support the Cybercabs. You're going to have to clean them, charge them, repair them. If something happens, you're going to have to be able to help the customers, whatever. And every time they scale to a different city, you have to scale that each time. Right. So I think it's a lot more than people give it credit, and I think it's a big challenge that they are working through right now.
And finally, the last bit of Tesla's news to go over for the intro is it looks like Robotaxi service is expanding again, this time in Florida. They just posted yesterday this information showing the new service areas. So maybe this, with everything else that we're seeing, is a great sign that Cybercabs, the production of Cybercabs, the introduction of the Robotaxi fleet, and the fleet itself will be scaling. Hopefully that is in fact what is going to be happening in the near future. So as I mentioned, later today is the financial results meeting, so we'll be hearing for that. Also, just to let you know, I'm going to be putting out a special 6-year anniversary of Giga Texas video that'll be coming out probably later this week, and it's just sort of celebrating 6 years of me flying here and covering the construction of the factory back when it was dirt all the way to what you see behind me today. And another thing just to keep in mind with scheduling, I'm going to be heading down to Starbase again. Hopefully we'll be able to get a good Flight 13 of Starship, and I will try to cover that and share with you as much as I can. So with all that news, all the information going on here at Giga Texas, let's get in the drone, fly around, and see what Giga Texas looks like today.
My drones are ready and raring to go. Let's go flying over Giga Texas. Happy financial results day here at Giga Texas. And a lot is going on throughout the entire site while we wait for that event later on today. But first, as you can tell, we are on the far southwest side looking at the test track, also briefly flying over the Colorado River, where you can see that the current is still quite strong as they continue to drain Lake Travis just on the west side of Austin. Because of all of the rains and the runoff that has happened throughout the last week or so in this area. We can see that there is some more standing water just in that ecological uplift by River Road, but that is also starting to recede. And probably by the time I get back from Starbase, much of this will be back to the normal levels. Now, we do see a few Cybercabs riding or driving on the test track, but as I arrived for the video, they all went back over to the operations facility. I did get some still shots when I was positioning the drone, but it looks like I just got them at a pausing point. But this still gives us a great view at this altitude of the track, those linear lanes where they've been doing a lot of testing with the rumble strips. And of course, on this side of the site, where they are continuing to add more of those bricks, almost like cobblestones, to make an even rougher lane for testing of that noise, vibration, harshness, and also the active noise cancellation within the Cybercab, but probably also other of the products. As I zoom in here, you can see that the Cybercabs have just parked. Many of the employees are getting out. What is interesting is that there was probably a good 10 or 15 on the track, but you can see there's only about 4 employees. So I'm going to suppose that some of the vehicles were autonomous. The gravel is spread on this, what I think is going to be a parking lot at some point in time. And we'll hopefully see some more progress with that by the time I get back on my next video. Here's a top-down view of the operations kind of yard and what it looks like here today, at least at this pause point, while they collect data and get ready for another run. As we come over to the staging yard, a few things is some packaging of materials again on the ground. More have been delivered here on the side by the fence where the supercharger workstations are, and plenty of superchargers are being installed, or at least assembled, for assembly and transport off-site to their final locations. The transformers still are here waiting for their opportunity to be moved off-site. Does not look like there's been much as far as change of equipment or the number over the last several days. Now, as I get to the outbound lot, a good view of the many vehicles. Cybercabs, Cybertrucks, and Model Ys are all interspersed. And of course, the transport trucks are busy picking them up throughout the entire site. On this southeastern corner of the outbound lot, there is this grouping of Cybercabs, and there are several new ones here in addition to the others that have been here for some time. You can see a few others throughout this section. A couple of the old engineering ones are still here as well. We're going to see what happens to those a little later on the east side of the factory. As we get to the west side of the end of line, there are several Cybercabs here. One of them is kind of doing a turnaround. That one was clearly being driven by a person, and more of them are parked here next to the fence line. And of course, as we look across the figure 8 test track, we can see that there is still a grouping on this part of the outbound lot, although not as many as we saw on my previous video. So clearly they are being transported off-site. And what the disposition of those, it's hard to say for sure. I do think that they are artificially trying to create a fleet to get as much data as possible, get some training data, and ensure that the software is ready to go for the autonomous driving, but also working on that fleet management process of the various locations, especially now that they have expanded to more sites in Florida. This is the mega charger site where we've seen the Semi before. They are doing expansion work here, possibly 2, maybe 3 new stations being put in. You can see what the ground level looks like. Most of the trenching has been filled in, which is great. Of course, the direct delivery center on the north end of the end of line is getting ready for more customer deliveries, while other vehicles are arriving in the sorting lanes on the left-hand side of the screen. So as I bring the drone up and fly towards the north, we'll kind of look across this field and some of the materials that are being stored here. Now, in the past, this field has been identified as a place for eventually a welcome center, but I'm wondering if that hasn't changed once again, and maybe that is what they're doing directly ahead at the top of the screen with this new clearing. Hard to say for sure, but what is clear is that they are putting a lot more land around where staging yards are going to be for materials. You can see that work on the left-hand side of the screen right now. Some of the steel still being stored here. And then as we fly over this kind of grassy area, you can tell that the grade is definitely significantly lower. And they are doing a lot of work bringing in fill dirt to fill this part in. And much of that dirt is coming from directly across the highway here. And this is a good view of that site. Also where the trailers are, the containers, and where some of that rental equipment lot and workshops are being put at the top left of the screen. That is Tesla property, even though it's on the other side of 973. And as we look back towards the factory, this gives us a better perspective from the intersection of 973 and Tesla Road of what this area looks like as they bring in more of the dirt. And clearly the grade is significantly lower here, but it is being raised slowly but surely. Plus some of the ponds are being erased too. As we get in a little bit closer, it's pretty obvious that more of the rental equipment has been moved away. This is starting to clear out in a constant stream of those center dump trucks bringing in the dirt from just across the street. And as I pull away further, great overall view of the work that is underway here, just on the south side of Tesla Road. Of course, the terminal at the bottom of the screen we saw being built before, and we'll go ahead and cross over the highway after looking at the main factory. And resuming on this side, we can see transport trucks at the bottom of the screen. Some of them have vehicles. They're just waiting for their time slots up at the rail station. Of course, the factory in the top right. I thought I would look here at the original Megapack site. You can see the part 2 at the top of the screen, and as I pan the drone up all the way over to Cortex 2, where even more of the Megapacks are being installed. There's at least 47 more on the northeast corner of the cathode plant waiting for installation. This is one of the new staging yards. Much of this is building equipment. This was relocated from the east side of the site to make way for the advanced technology chip fab construction. As we get to the north casting lot, we can also see the materials that are being stored here. Some of them are paint stands for bumpers. The others are Cybercab parts that we've seen before as part of the setup of the actual production line. Of course, directly ahead is the melt center, and where more of the castings are brought out of the casting machine section, the main parking garage, the multi-level one, and of course all of the work that is being done here, including some of the melting down of scrap aluminum to make the castings. This is a great look at many of these castings, which are all for a Cybertruck. You can tell there are a lot of them here. And as I was leaving today, I noticed that there were more Cybertrucks that were leaving the factory and heading over towards the outbound lot. So I'll zoom back out and we'll fly along here on the north side of the factory, take a look at a few of the items, especially by the paint shop and plastics, and of course where they're doing work inside of the 4680 portion of the factory. And then we'll continue around and we'll take a look at the recycling of the 4680 cans momentarily. This is the recycle center for the 4680s. You can see a few of them in the green bins, but not a whole lot. It looks like maybe they have just recently been picked up. Speaking of which, we see a Cybercab at the bottom of the screen doing some drop-off either of employees or testing or a little bit of both. I did see a full video, or made a video of a Cybercab driving along this road and doing a drop-off of 2 employees, and it was very clearly fully autonomous. So that is continuing. Here at the exit point for the Model Ys, didn't see one coming out at the moment I was here. Of course, there are employees that are arriving for work today. And as we pass the main entrance, we see another Cybercab heading to the south. We'll kind of follow along as we fly to the south on this west side and kind of get an idea of the path that it does take. As we continue to get farther to the south, we can see on the right-hand side where that horizontal drilling operation has been underway. And here's a look at the operation, at least at this time of day. They are drilling underneath the Colorado River to the bank on the south side. And I would eventually expect to see some of the pipes being pulled through like we've seen before. Another Cybercab driving below the drone. And as I reposition here, looking back to the factory across the fork statue, just notice how low the water is in the cyber pond. My last video was considerably fuller, and that was because of all the rain that we've had over the last week or so. And Giga Texas was not spared for the rain, but the water management systems that they have put into place really shined and kept the entire site dry. You can do see a little bit of the Colorado River at the bottom of the screen. Some more work with a crane just on the south bank near Follow Lane. And that work is continuing all the way over. We can see where more of the water is, but it is starting to recede as far as its ultimate depth and incursion onto the banks. Coming back across the river, looking at the main factory, we can see that that one pane of glass is still needing to be replaced, and the privacy, or at least the security fence, is around there to keep everybody safe. A nice view across the entire east side from the south, looking to the north, and looking over towards where the Advanced Technology Chip Fab construction site is. And we'll see that momentarily in more detail. But right here is the outfall channels that go underneath River Road and will drain that large water retention pond. And speaking of which, despite the work that they are doing here at the outflow channel, it looks like a lot of water was put into the pond. I'm not sure if this was part of testing. You can see some at the outfall channel at the bottom of the screen, but there is a lot of water in the rest of the pond, or at least the bottom of it. And this is the first time I've seen this much water in that pond, so I'm kind of presuming that it is for testing. We do see a Cybercab at the bottom of the screen, as you can tell, driving next to the pond. The retaining walls are virtually completed with just a few more to go, and then I do expect to see a liner put into place. See the big lake at the top of the screen is quite full, and near the recycle center here, the graded location is nearly completed, and all of the trees, vegetation is gone too. And I do think that we may see the East Warehouse on Wheels expanded into this section. I'm going to turn back towards this staging yard just because I noticed that there was some of these older engineering Cybercabs, and they are getting ready for recycling. This one in particular, it looks like it has had a lot of the panels taken off, maybe for inspection, maybe for testing. Zoom in so you can see a little bit better of what this looks like, and also what the structure of a Cybercab appears like with most of the panels off. And I don't think that we're going to see many of these wrapped old engineering Cybercabs around very much longer. They continually collect them, bring them over here, and then they are taken away for dismantling. And I've heard some people ask, are they going to reuse the parts? I don't think so. They'll just have a new production line, so they'll be building brand new ones. Of course, there are some changes from the older engineering versions versus the production line one anyway. Good view with lighting here at the east side of the parking garage. Looks like mostly just employee vehicles being parked there. The staging yard here on the south side, they put a new fence in, kind of dividing the yard into 2 parts, and the tanks are still waiting here for their time to be moved into the body in white. As we're looking back at the southeast corner of the factory, I'll zoom in, a nice look at Cortex 1's chilling system. Looks like all the fans were working today. Of course, some of the workshops and materials along this east side of stamping. And as I maneuver the drone back around, we can see the exit point for the Cybercabs from the factory. This is at the end of the production line, and they have many of them stored out here today. And it's hard to tell for sure if these have the Cybercab logos or not. It does look like there's at least one that is the older engineering version parked next to the rest, and you can kind of tell by the deeper gold color on the production versions. A lot more of the materials for inside the factory being stored out here, getting ready for moving in. As we pass the chiller system for the rim molding process for the plastic panels that are used on the Cybercab, we continue to move our way to the north along this east side, past the secondary main entrance to where the opening is on the walls. And there's a lot of excavation work being done where the receiving doors or the docks used to be. And just kind of curious what they're end up going to do there. There are some permits that talk about a fire hydrant system reconfiguration. Maybe that's what they're up to, or maybe they're just going to reclaim that space inside for other needs for production lines. Speaking of which, as I get to this part of the casting, I'll zoom in. You can see many of these castings. These look like the upper frame for the rear part of the Cybercab. Some other parts that are for Cybercab as well. And a lot of recycling too. So the work here at the Melt Center and at casting continues to be very busy. So I'm going to relocate over to the east side and we'll take a look more at what's going on with the advanced technology chip fab construction. The foundation is certainly taking shape. Right now it's still rectangular, but we do see the gravel that has been spread on the north side and geopiers at work, as we kind of suspected would be the case on my previous video. I'm going to kind of just fly over here, do a turn on top of the tallest one of the geopiers, and you can see right now they're doing the cleaning out of the auger, and they will fill it up with gravel and then compact it with that very tall geopier. And then they'll continue to do this to make all of the piers throughout this area to prepare for the footings. And we will see a little bit later in the video where they're making the rebar cages for the footings. And of course, more of the geopiers are at work right now as well. So I'm going to kind of fly around here, get a better view of what this construction site looks like and how it continues to transform. Kind of turned around looking across the workshops back to that lined pond with the water in it. We do see some more excavation work next to where they're putting paving in on the second lane of River Road. Of course, more of the steel that has been brought over here, or at least repositioned over here, that I think may be used for the construction of the advanced technology chip fab. And as I continue to pull away, we can see more of the equipment being stored in the pipes next to the old pavilion in the bottom left, and of course the look across towards the main factory. Bring the drone back down, show you the rebar cages that are being prepared on the bottom right of the screen. Of course, this is for the footings, and those will be supported by the geopiers on that main foundation. I really do want to see how that foundation will continue to evolve and start getting the beveled corners in that we saw with the render. As I get over towards the crash test facility, we can see many vehicles have been crash tested, a lot of Cybercabs, but we also see two cranes next to the battery cathode plant, and right also next to the temporary platform and the workshops. Here's a better view across the crash test facility, and just looking to see if there's anything noticeable there other than just what we see typically, and not really. So I'm going to instead pull away to the east, look back towards the entire battery cathode plant, show you the work that's being done on River Road here. One of the two lanes is being prepared for asphalt. You can see how it bends off to the right of the screen up towards Lone Tree Field. They continue to do grade work here next to this site. And I turned back fairly quickly just because I wanted to show you all the mega packs that are being stored here. Last time I counted, there was about 47. I'm sure a viewer will look and tell me if I'm accurate or not, but that adds to about 14 more that they already have by the east side of Cortex 2. Of course, this is a good view of more of the grade work that is being done up here. And I'm going to come back and show you the rest of the north site because I want to return back towards the Central Support Campus, which is where the battery cathode plant, die shop, and Cortex 2 is, because I want to show you the work that is being done on what I think may be the water vapor reclamation plant. That is what is being constructed right now in the middle of the screen. At the bottom of the screen, as we bring the drone down a little bit lower, the pedestals, the screw type piers for what I think are going to be water tanks still have some work to be done, but it looks like they've installed most of them since the previous video. There has been a lot of piers being installed in this kind of dirt section. If you look closely, you can see the round depressions within the entire dirt section. And then on the south side, we see excavations with, there was some mud base put in and now maybe some gravel, and of course the trench boxes. And this may be to allow water pipes to connect over to the various cooling plants. That's kind of a conjecture on my part, and we'll see how that works. But of course, here you can see the cooling plant at the bottom right. That was for the battery cathode plant, part 2 of the cooling system for Cortex 2. And just to the south, they're erecting some of the frames and screw type piers in this section. And I think this is where those other 14 mega packs are going to go. And it's going to be very similar to what we see at the center of the screen for the part 1 of the cooling system. Some other materials and pipes are being arrayed next to that part 1 of the system. And of course, all the workshops on the left-hand side of the screen with more of the pipes and manifolds that will be used for the cooling system itself. A nice view here at the northeast corner of Cortex 2 and the north end. Much of the equipment has been moved away, and it looks like there's some excavation work here on the north end as well. As I continue to maneuver around to show you the northwest corner and back across much of the Central Support Campus, we can see that the trench work here continues, although they have put some of the pipes in. They have not filled in the trenches quite yet. I think that's going to support more of the platforms and transformers electrical equipment that we see, similar to what's on the left-hand side of the screen. The workshops remain here in the middle of the screen next to where they've installed 8 of the megapacks, and we'll start seeing more of those very soon. Now, one of the things that is needed is the cables pulled through the conduit, and that looks like what the crews are doing right here. This is where an underground vault kind of proceeds over towards this direction and connects into this underground vault, which is also connecting right into the electrical switch yard and one of those control trailers that you can see in the middle of the screen. As I pull back away, we're closer to Megapack 2 and some of the trailers for the contractors on the right, and of course much of the materials that are being staged here. Much of this we've seen going into Cortex 2, and I'm kind of assuming that that's where much of this is going to be going as well. So what I want to do now is bring the drone up to a much higher altitude, look across the Central Support facilities all the way up to the North Campus, and we'll fly up there and take a look at what is going on with the Optimus factory, plus much of the earthwork that is underway to reclaim this south section. A better view of all of the trees and vegetation they've removed on the left-hand side of the screen. Seems to be widening the overall site to some degree, and it mirrors what we're seeing on the right-hand side of the screen, where they've been reclaiming some of the sand and gravel mining as well. A lot of gravel's been brought into the south side. Of course, more of the geopier work underway, and the rebar cages continue to be constructed to build more of the footings all the way on the south side. Here's a nice zoom in across the staging yard and where the footings are, with all the steel ready for the assembly onto the main structure. A better view of some of this clearing now below the drone. And as we get in a little bit closer, it's a great view of the 7 cranes that are at work. They also have a few smaller ones that are helping move around some of the steel. Bring the drone up to a higher altitude so you can see that it is 10 column widths wide now, I believe. I know I have some viewers that have eagle eyes, and they'll let me know if I'm incorrect on that or not. But bringing the drone back down, looking across the factory construction site over towards Giga Texas gives you a good concept of where exactly we are located. And of course, the north end of the building with those beveled corners is quite noticeable with all the footings that have been constructed. As we pass over this tree belt where the linear hills and ponds are remaining from the sand and gravel mine, we're entering into Lone Tree Field, where much of the steel has been stored here. There still is a lot yet to be moved over and installed. As you can imagine, just looking across this field of steel back to the main factory and the site that's cleared, they're going to have to bring in a lot more steel yet to come. As we pass over the roadway, we see more of the vegetation on the right that needs to be mulched. The northeast trailer complex with some materials and the refueling station. And just across the now pretty active dirt road, see more of the steel items and this growing kind of complex of workshops. Now between the two larger kind of tent-like structures, we see a lower covered area, the metal roof over the beams, and they're erecting another one of these Quonset huts using the containers as walls. Coming back over to the land, what I really want to show you is how they've moved the silt fence back far to the south and removed more of the trees and continue to bring in dirt to reclaim this section, and how much more work they yet have to do to be able to have construction going on in this site. Of course, more at the bottom of the screen as they continue to widen this part of the site, kind of mirroring what we see on the top of the screen. And of course, this is a good view of the footings with all the steel waiting for the assembly as they continue to work north and south from the midsection of this structure where you see the two columns that are close together. That's a fire break, and there will be more of those as they continue to make the building longer. So I'll bring the drone up to a much higher altitude. From this perspective, we can see all of the site, all of the areas that we visited today, and hopefully get a pretty good appreciation for just how big Giga Texas is. One more time, congratulations to Tesla for 6 years of construction at Giga Texas. And as always, thank you very much for watching. Take care.